He was the heart of the Three Stooges, lovable, wild-eyed, and always ready with a Nyuk, Nyuk, Nyuk. But Curly Howard, the man who made millions laugh, was hiding something that would change how we remember him forever. Are you curious about his tragic final years? Comment below with a 1 if you grew up watching the Three Stooges, or a 0 if not. And now, let's dive into the truth behind Curly Howard's fall from fame, and the painful secret even his biggest fans never knew. Curly Howard mystery death. For decades, fans of classic comedy have cherished the infectious laughter and larger-than-life persona of Curly Howard, the beloved member of the iconic slapstick trio, the Three Stooges. His trademark high-pitched voice, spinning routines, and exaggerated facial expressions brought joy to millions and created a comedic legacy that has endured for generations. But behind the giddy antics and whirlwind energy that defined his screen presence, there was a much darker, more tragic story, one that was long obscured by studio silence, misreported facts, and the nature of Hollywood's tendency to protect its stars at all costs. Now, with the release of recently unearthed documents, medical records, and family correspondence, the mystery surrounding Curly Howard's sudden physical and mental decline has finally been unraveled. And what has come to light is both heartbreaking and unsettling. Jerome Lester Horwitz, known to the world as Curly, lived a life full of contradictions. Off-screen, he was shy, sensitive, and surprisingly insecure about his appearance and role in the entertainment world. Despite being the most popular stooge during their golden years, while audiences saw a lovable clown, those close to Curly saw a man who often struggled with depression, loneliness, and a profound sense of inadequacy. The root of these struggles may be better understood today, thanks to new insight into his private life, much of which had remained buried due to stigma and lack of documentation. Mental health, now a topic of open conversation, was then cloaked in shame and misunderstanding. Curly's erratic behavior, frequent disappearances from the set, and sudden mood swings were chalked up to the pressures of fame and the grueling pace of his work. But we now know they were symptoms of far more serious issues. Medical experts, revisiting his case, believe Curly may have suffered from undiagnosed bipolar disorder or another neuropsychiatric condition, exacerbated by his heavy alcohol use, a known coping mechanism he used to deal with his inner turmoil. These revelations add a devastating layer of context to his final years, which were marked by a rapid physical and cognitive deterioration. There are snippets from the Stooge brothers' personal correspondence, revealing that both Moe and Larry were deeply worried about Curly's health. One undated letter from Moe reads, "Curly's pacing more than usual. His face droops in places. Larry's worried. This isn't jest." Within months, Curly suffered his first massive stroke in 1945, ending his tenure with the Stooges. But the footage suggests this wasn't an isolated collapse. It was the result of months of unrecognized warning signs. Massive stroke. In 1946, Curly suffered a massive stroke at the age of just 42, while filming a short called Half-Wits Holiday, abruptly ending his career as a full-time stooge. Many fans thought it was an isolated health event caused by stress or poor health habits, but deeper investigation reveals that Curly had been experiencing transient ischemic attacks, mini-strokes, for several years prior, warning signs that were tragically ignored or misattributed. Perhaps even more troubling is how the Columbia Pictures studio system treated him during this time. Instead of offering him sustained medical support or allowing him proper rest, the studio pushed him to keep performing as long as he was physically capable, fearing the trio's success would falter without his presence. Studio memos from the period reveal a shocking disregard for Curly's well-being, suggesting he be propped up for just one more picture, or that his condition be covered up to avoid public concern. Moe Howard, his older brother and fellow stooge, tried to advocate for him behind the scenes, but even Moe's influence could only go so far within a system designed to prioritize profits over people. A life in decline. Perhaps the most shocking revelation is that the Howard brothers, and even some crew, did not receive full disclosures about Curly's condition. The footage suggests studio executives deliberately downplayed medical concerns to keep the comedy shorts rolling. In one clip, a studio manager is heard saying, "It's just nerves. Curly'll bounce back. No need for rest." By the time Curly suffered another stroke in 1946, the damage was irreversible, and the Tinseltown machine had already moved on. That stroke forced his immediate retirement from the Three Stooges. Moe, his brother and fellow stooge, later recalled in his memoirs. It was like watching a clown's mask fall off. My baby brother was never the same. After the stroke, Curly lived out his final years in near obscurity, bouncing between care facilities and brief stays with family. He attempted a comeback with a brief cameo in the 1947 short Hold That Lion. But the man who once dazzled audiences with his comedic brilliance was now frail, confused, and visibly aged beyond his years. Further strokes followed, leaving him incapacitated. After his stroke, Curly's health steadily deteriorated. He suffered from obesity, high blood pressure, and recurrent strokes, all worsened by years of intense filming schedules and personal turmoil, including multiple failed marriages and financial trouble. He spent his final years in and out of hospitals and nursing homes. By 1949, another severe stroke left him partially paralyzed and unable to speak clearly. Despite brief attempts at recovery, he never returned to performing. Tragic death. Increasingly frail and barely able to communicate. The official cause of death was a cerebral hemorrhage, a consequence of chronic hypertension and years of physical decline. Moe Howard was by Curly's bedside when he died. In interviews years later, Moe revealed he died with a smile. That was Curly. Even in pain, he found a way to bring peace. By the time of his death at the age of 48, the world had largely forgotten the man who had once made it laugh, and his passing was reported in the press, but without the fanfare or tribute his contributions truly deserved. The recent revelations, gleaned from family archives, behind-the-scenes testimonies, and overlooked medical files, paint a sobering picture of a man who gave everything to make people happy, even as his own life fell apart. Curly Howard was not simply a funny man lost to time. He was a deeply vulnerable human being failed by a system that didn't understand how to care for him. The mystery surrounding his decline isn't really a mystery at all anymore. It's a story of neglect, stigma, and the price of fame in an era that demanded laughter at any cost. In the end, solving the Curly Howard mystery hasn't brought the comfort fans might have hoped for. Instead, it forces us to reckon with the truth behind the laughter. That even those who make the world smile can suffer in silence. And that sometimes the funniest people hide the deepest pain. It's not the ending we wanted, but it's the one he deserves to be remembered by. Curly's death marked more than just the loss of a comedian. It ended an era. He wasn't just the zany, lovable clown millions adored. He was a deeply sensitive man who gave everything to make others laugh, even as he crumbled inside. Moe Howard's recollections about Curly. Though Moe Howard was often seen on screen as the gruff, bossy ringleader of the Three Stooges, behind the scenes he carried a quiet, unwavering love for his younger brother, Jerome, whom the world knew as Curly. In private moments, Moe often spoke of Curly not as a comic partner, but as the baby brother he always felt the need to protect. In his later years, Moe reflected on their bond with deep affection and, at times, heartbreak. "Jerry was the sweetest of us all," Moe once confided, using Curly's real name. There wasn't a mean bone in his body. He just wanted to make people laugh and to be loved. Moe remembered how, even as a child, Jerome was different, shy, quiet, and always a little unsure of himself. The youngest of 5 brothers in a poor Jewish household in Brooklyn, Jerry was often overlooked. He stuttered when nervous and limped slightly due to a childhood injury to his foot. But Moe noticed something else. A spark. A kind of silly magic that appeared whenever Jerry tried to cheer up their mother or play tricks on their older siblings. That magic blossomed into full brilliance when Curly joined the Stooges in 1932. Moe recalled how reluctant Jerry had been to shave his thick auburn curls at first. But when he did, sacrificing vanity for comedy, the transformation was instant. He walked into that first rehearsal with a bald head. Moe wrote in his memoir, Moe Howard and the Three Stooges. And we knew right then this guy is gold. But Moe also saw the cost of Curly's commitment. Off camera, Curly was quiet and self-conscious. He struggled with loneliness, often falling in love too quickly and giving too much of himself away. Moe would watch helplessly as his brother poured his heart into relationships that often ended in disappointment. He just wanted someone to love him back, Moe said simply. The work took its toll, too. Curly's energy on screen, those explosive pratfalls, that boundless physicality, came with a price. He was filming dozens of shorts a year, often under grueling conditions. Moe noticed that Jerry would sometimes hide exhaustion behind a laugh, or brush off headaches that turned out to be signs of deeper trouble. I remember once, Moe recalled, his voice heavy with memory. He collapsed after a scene. He was soaked in sweat and couldn't catch his breath. He tried to joke about it, but I could see the fear in his eyes. After Curly suffered his first major stroke in 1946, Moe visited him at the hospital. The man who had once bounced off walls and danced through scenes now struggled to speak. Moe held his hand and cried. He looked at me, Moe wrote, and said, "Did I do good, Moe?" I said, "You were the best, kid. The best there ever was." Hi. Those later years were especially hard. Moe watched as Curly faded, not just in body, but in spirit. Yet even then, he would flash a smile when Moe or Larry walked into the room. He still had that twinkle, Moe would say, even when the world was slipping away. In public, Moe was stoic, but privately, the loss of Curly broke him in ways few understood. Until the end of his life, Moe kept a photo of his baby brother on his desk, a reminder of laughter, of family, and of a kind soul who gave everything to make others smile. I'd give anything. Moe once whispered in a rare, candid moment, just to hear him say Nyuk, Nyuk one more time. But that's not all. Keep watching as we explore the other's tragic secret throughout his life. If you're a fan of vintage Hollywood or timeless comedy legends, hit like, tap subscribe, and join our growing community of classic film lovers. A childhood secret unearthed. In a dusty attic, family members uncovered grainy 1930s footage, and with it, whispers of a health crisis that dogged Curly Howard long before the first Stooge short was made. Fans have always known Curly as the rubber-faced, high-energy whirlwind, Nyuk Nyuk Nyuk. But the real Jerome Howard told a quieter, sadder story. He suffered from severe hypertension, retinal hemorrhaging, and obesity, conditions no one believed he had until now. Experts watching the footage saw signs of poor posture, facial strain, and lethargy, all hinting at a body struggling under medical distress. This wasn't the playful goofball they cheered. It was a man performing through pain. How can he get over all of it? Before illness and tragedy eclipsed his stage presence, Curly Howard was a shining soul, a star born from the most ordinary of circumstances. To understand the loss the world felt when he died, we need to go back to where it all began, the childhood of a boy named Jerome Lester Horwitz. Jerome Lester Horwitz, who would later be known to the world as Curly Howard, was born on October 22, 1903 in Brooklyn, New York, into a working-class Jewish family. The youngest of 5 children, Curly grew up surrounded by his strong-willed older brothers, especially Moe and Shemp, both of whom had strong personalities and were early performers. In the shadow of his assertive older brothers, Curly was often seen as a shy and quiet boy. But that silence hid a natural talent. From a young age, Curly had the ability to make people laugh with simple actions. He didn't need to say much, just a facial expression. An accidental fall, or a whoop whoop whoop, was enough to make the audience happy. Although he rarely shared his true feelings off stage, every time he stepped on stage, Curly seemed to transform completely. He immersed himself in his role with all his innocence, intensity, and primal passion for laughter. Curly had never attended theater school, nor had he received any formal training. But he made up for it with great instincts, an almost instinctive sense of comedy rhythm and timing, and an ability to give himself completely to each role. Before becoming an integral part of the Three Stooges, Curly worked a variety of jobs, from manual labor to part-time acting in local plays. It was on these small stages that he honed his physical comedy skills, which would later become his signature on-screen persona. In 1932, Curly's life took a turn. When his brother Shemp Howard left the group to pursue a solo career, Curly was invited to join the Three Stooges, who were then working with comedian Ted Healy. At first, Curly seemed like an unlikely fit. He had thick, curly reddish-brown hair and a mustache, the complete opposite of the goofy look the group was aiming for. But then came a small but symbolic twist. Moe and Ted Healy asked Curly to shave his head to better fit in with the group. Curly was reluctant at first. His hair was part of his identity, but he embraced it, out of a love for the stage and a desire to prove that he could shine on his own terms. And when that bald head first appeared on screen, the world couldn't forget. From quiet boy to global comedy icon, Curly Howard's journey is a story of sacrifice and a desire to make others smile, even while he himself suffered from invisible wounds. The clean-shaven look quickly became Curly Howard's trademark, solidifying his image as the most distinctive member of the Three Stooges. With his high-pitched voice, wildly exaggerated facial expressions, and an arsenal of unforgettable catchphrases like Nyuk, 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 certainly, and woo woo woo, Curly captivated audiences across the nation. He didn't just act funny, he became the embodiment of comedy itself, using his body like a rubber band and his face like a canvas of limitless expression. Curly's genius wasn't rooted in wordplay or intellectual wit, it was pure, physical artistry. His performances were built on pratfalls that seemed to defy gravity, cartoonish double takes, and hand gestures so unpredictable they felt like improvised jazz riffs. Everything about him, his timing, his rhythm, his ability to transition from confusion to glee in a split second, was lightning in a bottle. Few comedians before or since have been able to command the screen so completely without saying a word. What truly set Curly apart, however, was the emotional undercurrent he brought to his performances. Fans weren't just laughing at a clownish figure, they were laughing with someone who radiated innocence, sincerity, and even vulnerability. There was a childlike purity in his comedy, a sense that he didn't mean any harm, even when causing chaos. That blend of mischief and warmth made him more than funny. It made him lovable. Between 1934 and 1946, during the golden era of their partnership with Columbia Pictures, Curly starred in nearly 100 short films with the Three Stooges. These shorts became pillars of American slapstick cinema. Classics like Punch Drunks, Disorder in the Court, and A Plumbing We Will Go aren't just preserved for their historical value, they're still laugh-out-loud funny, decades later. A testament to the enduring power of Curly's comedic voice. He was often the emotional and comedic heart of the trio. While Moe played the strict leader and Larry the confused go-between, Curly was the wild card, the unpredictable soul who could steal the spotlight with just a glance or a nonsensical sound. His presence elevated the Stooges' comedy from mindless slapstick to a form of controlled, chaotic poetry. It wasn't just funny, it was symphonic madness, and Curly conducted it all with unfiltered joy. Generations of viewers continue to fall in love with his performances. Children giggle at his antics. Adults marvel at his timing and sincerity. Curly Howard wasn't merely a funny man, he was an original, a one-of-a-kind performer who turned pain into punchlines and gave his whole self to the art of laughter. The emotional pain also affected on his health decline. Emotional pain. Curly Howard's personal life, particularly his romantic relationships, was often marked by turbulence, impulsiveness, and emotional vulnerability, traits that contrasted sharply with his energetic and carefree on-screen persona. His initial marriage, which took place before he became widely known as a member of the Three Stooges, was a short-lived and difficult affair. Divorce was the result of the union, which had barely lasted for 5 months, an indication of the volatility that would be characteristic of many of his future relationships over the course of his life. When this event occurred, Curly, whose birth name was Jerome Lester Horwitz, was still in the process of establishing himself professionally, and his comic brilliance had not yet made its way to the national stage. Reportedly, the collapse of this early marriage left him disillusioned and contributed to a tendency of seeking affection and approval via brief relationships, a theme that would reoccur throughout his life. This cycle would repeat itself throughout his whole life. Curly Howard tied the knot with Elaine Ackerman on June 7, 1937, a day that holds a special place in his heart since it was the 12th wedding anniversary of his older brother, Moe Howard, and Helen, Moe's wife. Curly's second marriage was more serious than the first, and it provided him with a look into the home life he had aspirations of having. The year 1938 marked the birth of Curly's first and only child during this time period of his life. The couple welcomed a daughter named Marilyn into the world. Even though they had a daughter together, Curly and Elaine's relationship deteriorated over time. This was due to personal differences, the strain of Curly's demanding work, and his more irregular lifestyle. Both of these factors contributed to the relationship's decline. The couple eventually separated in June of 1940. The separation from Elaine was a very personal blow for Curly, and it is probable that it was one of the factors that led to the mental and physical decline that he began to undergo in the years that followed. Despite the fact that Curly maintained some level of communication with his daughter, Elaine, he was unable to be with her. After going through his second divorce, Curly's health started to deteriorate, and this decline would continue to worsen over the course of the following 10 years. Already prone to swings in weight, he started to acquire a significant amount of weight during this period, a shift that was both noticeable and worrying to his family and coworkers. He was already prone to making weight changes, the beginning of hypertension, a disease that was likely exacerbated by both his physical state and the demands of life on the road and in the public glare, was a factor that contributed to the difficulties involved in this situation. Curly, the real-life figure, battled with exhaustion, high blood pressure, and a variety of other health issues that would trouble him for the rest of his life. This was in contrast to the character that he portrayed in film shorts, who was a flurry of fun and excitement. These situations were made even more difficult by the requirements that came with being a member of the Three Stooges. During World War II, the Three Stooges devoted their time to live performances and appearances that boosted the morale of United States military soldiers. This was done while their film production schedule was halted for around 7 months each year. As a result of these tours, they traveled all across the country and even beyond, frequently performing numerous gigs in a single day, enduring strenuous travel, and dealing with unpredictability. Despite the fact that they were carried out with the intention of providing support to the troops, these performances were both physically and emotionally tiring, especially for Curly, whose health was no longer in good shape. The majority of the physical humor was directed against him, and he frequently participated in slapstick routines that required him to fall, pratfall, and make exaggerated gestures. All of these activities put a strain on his deteriorating physique. Curly was expected to maintain his sobriety during these off-camera moments, particularly due to the fact that Moe maintained stringent standards against drinking any alcohol while on the job. Moe, who was the de facto head of the group and the disciplinarian, was aware of the importance of maintaining a professional demeanor, particularly in light of the difficulties that come with live performances. In spite of the fact that Curly was compliant with Moe's regulations while he was performing, he regularly engaged in extreme conduct after the curtain had been drawn. It was his method of coping with the tiredness and loneliness that came along with celebrity that he frequented nightclubs and bars on a daily basis. There, he sought solace in the form of food, wine, and the company of women. His lack of sleep and physical disintegration were both exacerbated by the fact that these overnight adventures frequently lasted well into the early morning hours. Curly gained a reputation for his irresponsible spending practices in addition to his pleasures, which led to such a notoriety. In spite of the fact that he had a substantial salary as a result of his work with the Three Stooges, he had a limited grasp of how to handle money. He frequently spent his earnings as soon as he received them, lavishing money on luxury meals, high-end booze, jewelry, and gifts for romantic relationships. He also frequently spent his money on gifts for his lovers. In addition, he had a propensity for buying real estate, frequently on the spur of the moment without giving adequate consideration to the implications for his finances. The irresponsibility with which he handled his finances came him perilously near to declaring bankruptcy on many times. As soon as Moe saw how bad the situation was, he volunteered to act as his brother's informal financial counselor. Not only did he assist Curly in the process of establishing a budget, but he also took on the laborious chore of filing his income tax reports. This was done to ensure that at least some pretense of financial stability was maintained. The fact that Moe's intervention was both a practical need and a meaningful display of brotherly care highlights the strong familial relationship that kept the Three Stooges together behind the scenes. In spite of the fact that a significant portion of his personal life was characterized by turmoil, Curly maintained a profoundly sympathetic and compassionate side, particularly when it came to animals. Dogs, in particular, were a source of solace and happiness for him, since they were devoted friends who also provided affection that was not conditional. Curly would regularly come across stray or abandoned dogs over the course of his profession, which required him to travel extensively and go on several tours. It was well known that he was able to make instant connections with these creatures, frequently providing them with food and care, and frequently adopting them outright when it was feasible. On multiple times, he carried these dogs along with him on the journey, and he refused to leave them behind until a suitable home could be found for them. His other performers and the staff at the hotel were frequently taken aback by this practice since they were not used to seeing a guy of his size transporting many animals from one location to another without incident. When he was not engaged in filmmaking or touring, Curly maintained a number of dogs as pets at his residence. A kinder and more caring side of him was shown via his fondness for these creatures, which was one of the few steady and anchoring factors in his life. This side stood in sharp contrast to the chaotic whirl of his career and romantic engagements. Moe made a sincere effort to give stability and repair his brother's failing health by persistently encouraging Curly to find a steady, loving partner who might assist him in emotionally anchoring himself. As a result of this piece of advice, Curly embarked on a whirlwind relationship with Marian Buxbaum, a lady whom he married after only 2 weeks of courting. The pair tied the knot on October 17, 1945, and although it seemed at first that the marriage would provide Curly with the opportunity to have a long-term friendship, it gradually deteriorated into a relationship that was characterized by bitterness and animosity. The union barely lasted for 9 months, during which time it was continually characterized by disagreements, mistrust, and competing priorities. The subsequent divorce processes were not only embarrassing to the public, but also emotionally painful. Curly's divorce was sensationalized by the press, which was always keen to capitalize on the private strife of celebrities. As a result, Curly was seen as being volatile and unstable. He saw a significant decline in his health as a direct result of this media circus. Curly's medical state, which had already been damaged by years of stress and illness, deteriorated drastically in the midst of the court struggle and became even more severe. It was just 2 months before the divorce was finalized in July 1946 when Curly suffered a serious stroke. This catastrophe not only brought a stop to his career with the Three Stooges, but it also signaled the beginning of a rapid and irreparable slide in his health. Despite this painful setback, Curly continued to look for friendship and a feeling of normalcy in his life. It was on July 31st, 1947 that he tied the knot with Valerie Newman, a lady who would go on to become his most trustworthy companion. He found that this particular marriage was the most secure and long-lasting in his whole life. Curly was finally able to reach a level of calm and support that he had been searching for a very long time. In 1948, they became parents to a girl named Janie, who brought Curly a newfound sense of purpose and joy. Despite the fact that his health continued to deteriorate steadily, Valerie remained at his side during his final years, providing him with care and company throughout a time that was defined by numerous hospitalizations and a decline in his physical capacity. This final chapter of his personal life was founded on true compassion and mutual support, in contrast to the turbulent relationships he had experienced in the past. Curly's death in 1952 was a tragic ending to the life of a man whose comedic talent hid a lifetime of emotional and physical pain. The pair stayed married until the year of his passing. The man behind the wig. A seldom acknowledged aspect of Curly's legacy, his compassion. He rescued over 5,000 stray dogs, funding shelters in every town he visited, demonstrating a personal depth often overshadowed by his slapstick persona. Yet, even this act of generosity was tinted with tragedy, as he poured much of his meager earnings into canine care. Curly Howard became an enduring symbol of physical comedy, yet his story is more tragic than funny. What was once seen as boundless energy now appears as stubborn performance under mounting health crises. The new revelations didn't just solve a mystery. They reframed Curly's life as a battle for dignity in an unforgiving industry. The implications are profound. They force us to confront how easily art can mask agony. They remind us that even icons carry hidden wounds. And they demand we remember Curly, not just for his laughs, but for his strength in masking suffering and his kindness at great personal cost. This isn't simply a mystery-solved moment. It's a powerful reassessment of a comedy legend whose final act was a performance of courage. Did you grow up watching The Three Stooges? What's your favorite Curly moment? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss stories of legends we thought we knew.